Hey everyone. Hi everyone. It's Tech Tip Talk. It's the third Monday of the month, and we are tech editors, and we are here broadcasting live to answer your questions about knitting patterns, knitting pattern writing, knitting design, and tech editing. I'm Sarah Walworth.
I'm Christina McGrath, and we're knitting tech editors.
And we love answering your questions. So we are here every third Monday at noon Eastern Time. And we got a lot of questions this month. So should we jump right into them? What do you say?
Yeah, let's jump in.
Okay.
How about that chart key font question?
That chart one. Okay, let me find it. Here we go. All right, so this is the first question that we're going to address today. Do you know where to find chart symbol fonts online? I have been looking and can't find a resource. So in this, I would say that an internet search is your best friend. What I did to find some resources was to just do a simple search of knitting chart fonts free, those words, and I came up with a few things. So I'm going to go over to the comments section, and I'm going to put in a couple of things that might help. The first thing is I am a fan of the knitting software Stitch Mastery. Everybody knows that. I think I did an interview once for them. Yep. And here they actually provide a free font collection. And put this into the comments section here. Let me see if it does it. There it is. I think you should be able to copy paste out of that. They have a full font collection that you can use in OpenOffice or some other software. And I do want to mention that it does depend on what software you are using. Because if you have knitting chart software like Stitch Mastery already downloaded to your computer, there are ways to customize the knitting symbols in there. But let's say you don't have that. So you want to build your chart in Excel, or let's say in Word, or in another kind of just word processing or a spreadsheet. There are people who have come up with fonts. So here's another one. This person actually designed a series of fonts that you can download to use in those kinds of software. There's one there. So that's one. And then I would suggest that you do a little bit of a search for some blog posts on this. There are people who tell you exactly how to download and use the fonts in all the ways in the different softwares. So here's this one. Here's a blog post. Sheep Among Wolves has one. And then the last thing I'm going to share with you is there is somebody who actually wrote a downloadable free book on all the things about building your own knitting charts without using software, but using just a regular, like without using a charting software, but just using a regular software that you have on your computer, say like in Microsoft or in OpenOffice. And that's this one. So we hope that this helps you. If we didn't answer your question quite the way that to the fullest extent that you need an answer, please feel free to ask us again and clarify what you're looking for. So we see some people are here with us today. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tip Talk Q&A. Please feel free to put your comments, your questions into the comments on the right, and we'll do our best to answer. You want to grab the next question, Christina?
Sure. Yeah, we got more questions about tech editing. So why don't we, oh, here's this one. Should I use waste yarn to help measure gauge in lace? Should I knit a flat border for the swatch? We had been talking again about ways to measure gauge in tricky stitch patterning, dark yarn, tips about that. And we had talked about how you can run up some scrap yarn, a contrast color, up the sides of your swatch, the top and bottom of your swatch, and measure from the yarn to the yarn instead of having to guess about where the stitches were. And so we got a question about that, if that was a good way to do it in lace, and if there should be a flat border knit for the swatch. So I think that the contrast color yarn is a great idea because it makes you like a frame that you can measure in. And remember also that you don't need to always, if you know how many stitches the repeat is, and you've run the yarn up the repeat and rows, then you don't need to count stitches. You can know this is my 26 stitch repeat that I've cordoned off, and it measures X. Right. And then you can divide to get your stitches per inch that way. So that's why that scrap yarn is so helpful if you know how many stitches you put in that place.
Exactly.
So that is a helpful way to do that.
So we do need to mention what is a running yarn marker, because I think that's what we suggested when we got this question on Instagram, right? So I'm going to put that into the chat. A running yarn marker is where you just
put the scrap yarn,
piece of scrap yarn, and on the edges of your repeat, okay, I'm like not mirrored here, on the edges of your repeat, you lay across the scrap yarn at the beginning, between the two stitches at the beginning of your repeat. And then you knit a few rows, and then you move the end of the scrap yarn up again between the stitches, and it kind of weaves in and out between your rows. This is an old-fashioned way of marking rows, and to mark the beginning of a repeat. It's very easy to do it this way, and especially if your pattern like travels, like cables or things like that, it does make a lot of sense. Let me put that into the, so it's called a running yarn marker. You can just do a simple Google search, and there's a lot of YouTube videos on how to practically do this. And so the second part of the question, what do you think, Christina? Should I knit a flat border for the swatch?
So here's the thing. If you knit any kind of border on any swatch that is not part of the stitch pattern that you're measuring, it's going to distort the stitch pattern you're measuring. It's going to pull and tug and change what you're going to get. So if you're adding a border, you would need to make the center of the swatch like twice as big to make sure you are measuring a good distance from the border. And so the way I think about it is, if you already have to make a swatch twice as big so that you're far away from the border when you're measuring, just don't put a border. You'll be able to measure it perfectly fine because it's big enough.
Right.
You do want to knit long enough to get away from the edges that might curl. You want to make sure you've made it wide enough that you're not, you don't want to be measuring curling or pulling it and stretching it and laying something on it to hold it flat. You don't want to do that. So borders are typically done to hold the swatch flat. But you have to know that putting a border on it is going to distort those stitches, and it's going to change your the measuring, your gauge that you get.
So generally speaking, when we're talking about gauge swatch, we always say don't use stitches in your gauge swatch that are not going to be in the finished item.
Right.
Generally speaking, this is just a good principle. If garter stitch is not in your finished item as a border, then don't use it in your gauge swatch. So it just helps to know how the yarn behaves with different stitches, and just to use the stitches that are actually in your piece in your gauge swatch.
And I think if you're measuring this for beginning a project that you're going to knit yourself or that you're designing, it's really important that you don't distort those stitches that you're going to measure, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to have it a swatch that you're displaying somewhere, that's a different story. And of course you can put a border, but if you're needing to get those numbers correct, which you do to work or design patterns, we're not huge fans of borders.
No, it's better just to block it really well. So we notice everybody is here. Welcome. If you guys have a question for us, we are Knitting Tech Editors, and we are here to answer your questions. Anything that you might have to ask about knitting patterns or knitting design or writing a pattern or tech editing in general, feel free to throw it into the comments and we'll do our best to answer your questions. All right, let's grab the next one. Okay, here we go. You ready for a tech editing question? I plan to enroll in the tech editing course. Can you tell me what you find works best? Mac or PC? What software programs work best in work as a tech editor? This is a great question. I know we've gotten this before.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
We've talked about this. In reality, you have to find what works best for you as a person. So I know Christina and I work in the Windows world because we like to use PDF Exchange Editor to edit patterns. PDF Exchange Editor is a annotating software that allows us a lot of functionality because we enjoy working on PDFs. You don't have to work in one thing or the other. There's no rules related to that. I know that if you are a Mac person, you're an Apple person, you definitely can work within the same software that you've already used. And if you need to convert to a document, or if you need to save it as an annotated PDF, there's so many great programs in both systems.
We have a lot of colleagues who use Mac computers and really like them and use iAnnotate, which is a software on the iPad and on a Mac that they really like. I think there is a way to have, there's other softwares too on Macs. Like, it's not like iAnnotate is your only choice. And we do have a lot of colleagues who really like their Macs, and that's how they do it. The best thing to always just, if you're worried about it, like if you have your system you're working in, it's your computer and it's what you like. If you're worried about it, like, email yourself a marked up document or email it and see if it comes through. See if all your notes come through, because that would really be the only concern. As far as taking the course, it's going to be whatever you're comfortable with, because the course is available in both of those ways. So it's just a matter of making sure your notes come through. And so, do a couple test emails and see. But we Sarah said, we use PCs, but lots of people tech edit with a Mac.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no one right or wrong way to do it. You can even do it within the whole Google universe. You can do it on Google Sheets, using the spreadsheet and Google Docs. So here's the thing. There are a few basic things that you will need to do tech editing easily. You're going to have a way to annotate a pattern, to mark up a pattern like you would with a pencil on a PDF. And you might need a way to look at different documents. So whether or not that is in the Google Docs or in Microsoft Word or in whatever the program is for Mac, I always forget what it's called. Is it Pages? I can't remember.
I think it's Pages.
And then you will need some spreadsheet software. And again, all of them work. You're going to be doing simple spreadsheet functions. So you don't have to have anything fancy for that. And we like to use 2 monitors or 2 screens. It does make it easier, but it's not required to have 2 ways of looking at things. So like on one screen, you have the pattern and that you're marking up, and on the other screen, you have your spreadsheet that you're checking the numbers on. So this is helpful as far as working efficiently, but you don't have to do it that way. So
no, you don't.
Some people use a laptop and an iPad or another kind of tablet as 2 screens. I use 2 monitors, but there's no one right or wrong way to do it.
I had 1 screen, and it didn't even, because I've always had like just boring computer. Okay. I had 1 screen, and I always print out the pattern. So you have things on your desk that you're working on too. But I was constantly having to flick back and forth between pages, or you have to like minimize them and make them fit, right? And then you can't always see everything. Well, I didn't even think about getting a second screen. And then I realized that we had one. I didn't even realize we had. And I put it on. Oh my God, total game changer. I love it. Okay. I love it. And then my computer totally crashed after threatening to crash for a year. It's dead as a doornail. And now I'm using my laptop and the screen won't connect to it. So I just have my 1 laptop screen now, and I'm back to 1 screen. So getting really good at like making the windows the perfect size so I can see them both, and like keeping it on my desk what I need. Yeah. So it certainly is nice to have 2 screens. Like she said, there's lots of ways to do it too. You can have a tablet and a laptop. You can have a laptop and another monitor. There's lots of ways to do it, and it's way nice, but like not necessary. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessary. There's definitely ways to tech edit without two screens. So
the other thing, and I think Lisa said in the comments, they use Pages on a Mac, but you can get Word on a Mac too, which is great. So there is the connection between the two systems.
That is good because a lot of designers write their patterns in Mac, in Word. A lot of designers write their patterns in Word, and so it just, being able to have that on your computer just makes it easier to read those patterns and everything.
And I think Catherine says, I have one massive screen, so fit 2 pages easily. And that was needed from a previous job. So yeah, if you have access to get an awesome giant monitor, it actually does help, especially if you're working for a really long time. For many hours, it helps to not have to do a lot of extra work to move things around to be able to see them. The other thing that you will need as a tech editor is a way for people to contact you and for you have a way to communicate with them. And that's just simple email. I do almost all of my tech editing communication via email. So you may want to have a separate business email so that just to keep it clean from your personal stuff. But tech editing is a very low overhead kind of business in the sense that you don't need a lot of equipment in order to get started and to work well. All right, what's our next question? Oh, hey, all of you and hanging out there with us today. If you have any questions, please do feel free to throw them into the comments. We're watching and for your questions. Let's see. Okay, here you go, Christina. What calendar do you find most effective for scheduling, and how many edits do you schedule a day or a week? Does it depend on complexity? It's a great question. I know we've answered this one before too, but we'll review.
So the reason, like Sarah and I both use scheduling software, and the reason that I started doing that is because at first, like scheduling, how she's talking about how many a week, how many a day, what calendar do we use? I use Calendly.
Yeah, I'll put that into the comments too.
Yeah, that's a good idea to allow people to book appointments on their own. And when I first started tech editing, like she said, you're using email and that's what you're doing. So someone would send me a pattern and I would get it back to them with an estimate and I would get it back to them edited within a week. That was how I worked it. But over time, I was getting too many patterns that couldn't all be done within a week. So I was having to like go back and forth, working out a time that it could be done. And then once you're scheduling farther ahead, then you have people that aren't sending you the pattern yet. And so then you have to now be reminding those people that they have to send you the pattern because you find you're not getting it. You'll be 3 days before the pattern. You have no pattern. And you're having to like do a lot of email, a lot of back and forth scheduling times and chasing people for patterns. And what ends up happening is like, I'd end up with getting people would not send it and I wouldn't have the job that day. Or it was getting crazy, like keeping track of these future appointments. So Calendly is awesome because it's got all these forms.
It's a calendar.
Yeah, it's a calendar, but you can pre-fill out all these emails that can go out. So they get automatic reminders. It's right on the page that they schedule on when they need to send the pattern to you, what they can expect. All that stuff is right there and it automatically happens. And also, you're not doing all those emails. And you can go in there and set dates in the future that you're not available.
Right.
You can add any times you want. I really, really have found, and I didn't even expect this to be so great, but it has saved me so much time and so much stress. It really has. It makes it so much simpler to schedule when you need to schedule in advance, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's other calendar software probably available. You may even be able to do it through your own website.
Yeah, like Squarespace has a scheduling.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get right on your website that's built right on there.
So the thing about it, and that we suggest as your business grows, using a calendar software so people can just schedule with you is for a couple of reasons. admin in our kind of business can take up hours and hours, and you do not you're not getting paid for that admin time. So it's great if the scheduling of the time is not back and forth through email, like, well, are you free this day? Well, no, I'm not. Well, are you free this day? No, I'm not. It's better for it to be the client's responsibility to go to your calendar and find a time that works for them, that you've already, put in your calendar when you're available and when the slots are. Of course, you can always say to your clients, hey, if you don't see any spots available and you have, a request and you need to have it done fast, then go ahead and just email me and we'll work something out. But I think having a calendar software was a game changer, and it relieved so much stress and pressure. And it also took all that stuff out of my inbox so that I didn't have to deal with it anymore.
So Lisa says, I read some really bad reviews about Calendly, though, so I'm concerned about crashing. I did get, recently there was some their site didn't work for a day or something, and it did not affect me at all.
It didn't affect me, yeah.
It was nothing that, it was like a few hours it was down or something didn't work properly, and it was the first time that's happened to me in the years I've been using it, and it didn't affect anything I was doing. It didn't delete any of my data, nothing happened. So that's good to know that there's concerns like that, and to look into it, but I'm not in any trouble personally.
I think every website has some problems at some time or another. My website went down a few days ago. Same thing. It happens. I would try it out if you want to. There's a way to do it for free. Right now, I'm on a free plan because I don't do a lot of tech editing scheduling. My tech editing is in a different arena right now. But you can pay for it, but you don't have to. And feel free to try other calendar software. There's a lot out there that would compete with Calendly. That's just the one that we use, but of course, it may not be the best. It's just what we prefer, what we've used. The other part of the question was, how many edits do you schedule? Right? Was that it? Let me go back and look.
Yes, and when she'd asked this, is because we spoke about last
how many
week.
Edits do you schedule?
You mentioned that you tend to make available one slot a day for edits. And she was asking, does that depend on if it's a more difficult pattern? If it's something really simple, would you do more than one a day?
Right. So the way that I've always done it is I set aside certain days during the week, every week, that is for tech editing. Certain days I don't have as work days. And then I schedule one slot for a new pattern on that day. And then, of course, there's always other work to do because you've got proofs and you've got reviews and you've got other things that are happening in the background. So for me, I only schedule one a day, but absolutely people can schedule whatever they feel comfortable with. I have colleagues who schedule as many as they can fit in one day. So two or three patterns a day. They do bulk editing, where they do 2 days a week, where that's all they do is edit for hours and hours. So you have to figure out what works best for you, when you work best, how you work best, and you might have to play around with it and see what works best for your schedule. As far as complexity, if I have a pattern that comes in that's 30 pages or 20 pages, I definitely will schedule out more time for it because I know that it won't be able to happen in one sitting. For the most part, knitting patterns can happen in one session. I can edit, for the most part, do my first pass all in one session. But a lot of times, a longer pattern, it needs more time. So then I'll book my own slots to grab that time so that I have enough time scheduled for a more complex pattern. How do you do it, Christina?
Well, kind of similar. I never know how the week's going to go. That's why I like getting the patterns 4 to 7 days ahead of time so that I can, first of all, so that I don't get bailed on, but because that happens, but so that I can prepare for my week. I can know what kind of patterns I'm doing, how long I expect them to take, if I'm going to need an extra day for it, or if I can do 2 in one day. So having available, it kind of comes out in the wash. If you have 4 tech editing spots open a week and one of them's really, really hard, and two of them are simple accessories, you can make time for all of that, right? But if you book, like if I couldn't do this because I'm not somebody who can sit and tech edit for 8 hours a day. I go out of my mind. Okay. Like Sarah said, there's so much else that we do that I am working on, but actual editing time, like 4, maybe 5 hours a day is the most I can do. And I think we've talked about this before, but so if I schedule like eight or 10 spots a week, thinking that I'll have, oh, for heaven's sake, the cat. Thinking that I'll have all this time, to work. And then half of them are like, 20 page garments and, or like 15-page shawls with 9 charts, so I have found over time, like I used to schedule more slots. And I've found over time what works best for me. I know now exactly how much I can do.
Right.
And how I've found a way that this works for me by scheduling how many spots I do a week. So it really depends, because I know that lots of tech editors can work more hours of actual editing than I can. I really burn out after like 4 hours, So I know a lot of people do way more editing in a day, or they don't have, I have other commitments in my week, so I can't always tech edit every day. So I know a lot of people can, or like Sarah works really well in the evening. I work really well in the morning. So you also need to figure out when have you got the time and what works for you, because you can do anything you want, really.
Exactly. It's your business. You get to do whatever you want.
And I think the biggest takeaway from what we're saying by sharing our experiences is that over time, you're going to find out what works best. And probably the only way to find that out is by
experimenting.
Right. Just jumping in there and doing it and seeing how it works out.
See what works for you, because we can give you our experience, but that's not going to match your personal, the way that works best for you may be completely different. There are a lot of people who work at different times and different ways, and you got to figure out what works best for you to help you do your best work. And I think that's the
thing.
key.
Right.
That's the key, is to find out what times and at what rate of work is going to be where I do my absolute best. I am on top of it. If you find yourself falling into like burnout mode, like, oh, this is too much, I'm so tired, or my brain is not working right, then you can just experiment and back off a little bit and try something different.
Yeah.
So that's how we found our happy spot with our schedule, and you can do the same. It's definitely your business, and that's the beauty of running your own business.
It really is. It really is. It can be a blessing and a curse, but this is one of those perks. We got a question in the comments that ties in with a question that we got ahead of time.
Okay.
She says, do you revisit the pattern again after some time to check if it is all taken care of?
Oh, that has to do with the question that we got. So let's pull up that question, and then Seema will answer that. Do you do proofs and reviews as they come in, or do you schedule those too?
So the question in the chat was, do you look at the patterns again? Mm-hmm. And we definitely do. We totally encourage designers to always send the pattern back again, even if you think it's all right, so that we can review it just to make sure all the changes have been incorporated, because we have found a lot of the times they've not been, or things got missed, or new things got introduced, and there's so often things wrong in that second pass. So yes, definitely we check the patterns again after we've finished the edit, and sometimes many times until it's right. So yes, we check them again. And I do them as they come in. Mm-hmm. I've tried thinking about, I was advised, one time by a friend to schedule those proofs, because sometimes the proofs come in, or the reviews, or the, your corrections, and they've made lots of changes, and it can sometimes be like a whole other edit.
Exactly.
And it can take you way more than 20 minutes or a half an hour to check it. So sometimes that is something that you might need to schedule. And I've tried doing that, but it doesn't really work for me, because I want to do those reviews,
get them done
in a timely fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do them as they come in, so it's fresh in my mind, it's fresh in their mind, and we can work on it till we get it done. I don't want it to be strung out until there's another appointment, or I like doing them as they come in. So I just find a way to make it work. And that's what Sarah was saying with the last question. Like, you're going to be doing other things. You are going to have reviews coming in and proofs coming in that you have to work on, even with your scheduled edits. So it's good to leave a little room in your week for proofs and reviews. Definitely.
And the only time I think I've actually had people schedule a proof is if there's a huge amount of time between my first edit pass and when they send it back for review, like months.
Or like,
I just had one that was a year and a half later, which happens. I mean, designing is kind of an up and down kind of cycle. Right. So, well, I get it and I understand, and I am totally there for my clients whenever they send it back. So that's the only time I ask them to schedule for a review, is if it's been a really long time and I need to know when it's coming, so I can make sure I have that time set aside.
And prepare for it because you haven't seen it in so long.
Lisa asked a great question, though. Here, let me close off this banner. Lisa says, how do you get those clients to send that pattern? I seem to be struggling with that. Yeah, we understand. We don't. You don't get, you can't force people to do anything. But what I usually do is I phrase things in a certain way when I send that first pass email back with the first edit. I always put in a paragraph at the end, right below my signature, and say, let me know when you want me to look at this again. Or please send this back to me when you've completed all the revisions. Let me know if you have any questions as you review. In other words, that's that kind of that little reminder of this little call to action at the end of the email, right before the signature, is, hey, I'm here for you, and I think it'd be great if I saw this again. Yeah. If there are a lot of technical and math errors, I will make it abundantly clear. Please send this back to me as soon as you make these corrections so we can make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Life happens for people.
Yeah.
And we get it, because life happens for us too. So if they don't send it back for a review before they publish it, I don't take it personally. I just let it go. It's like, it's fine, and I send the invoice.
But we've talked about this before too, but communication is so important. Because some designers don't know what to expect when they receive an edit, or they don't want to send it back because they're like, oh, I got it, I made all my corrections, and they save it for their testing. And some people don't like to send it back till after their testing is over. Right. And that can take a long time. So it's good to just communicate clearly, like Sarah said. When you write to them with the edit, say, please send this back when you've made corrections, or I'm looking forward to getting this back from you. Some kind of way to let them know what you expect them to do next with what you sent.
And you can make sure that you put it into your agreement email, your estimate email. Make sure that you let them know, hey, this is part of what you're paying for, is you're paying for me to review and to proof your final and layout. So just make sure that they know ahead of time, hey, I'm here for you. I'm not here just for one pass. So you can send it back to me again whenever you're ready for me to review your corrections.
No, we want to get it right.
Yeah. So it has to just do with communication. And at the same time, it's totally fine if they don't send it back. I have some clients that are very independent and very good at making their own corrections. And so they'll send me, sometimes they'll send back just like a paragraph, like, oh, okay, I fixed this. Can you just check this part? And I won't check the whole pattern, which is fine. And they're confident and they feel like, hey, it's ready to go. I don't have any problems. I know how to fix that. I'm good with this. I'm going to move forward.
Some people send it back to me until it's completely clean and there is nothing on it.
Right.
And some people will go back and forth once or something, and then they'll be like, okay, I get your changes, I'm good. And they don't want to send it back.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that works out. Sometimes it doesn't, but everybody's different,
Yeah.
Lisa says, when do you bill?
When do you invoice? Yeah. I think it depends.
Everybody does it differently, I think.
This is totally part of how you want to do business. Some tech editors bill right away. As soon as they send the first pass edit, they send an invoice. And then every time they do another pass, they send another invoice, which is totally fine. I personally do all my invoicing once a month. That's just how I do it. I just sit down at my desk and I do all the invoices for all the work for every client. So they might get, if I worked on multiple projects for a client, their invoice might have 3 different projects on it. Everybody does it differently. I think for a while there, I would wait until the pattern was released, was available for purchase, and then I would invoice. But that got a little complicated, so I didn't do that for a while. How do you do it, Christina?
That's difficult to do for a couple reasons. Like, if you wait until the pattern's published, for me anyway, you might be waiting a really long time.
Like a year.
Okay? You could be waiting a really long time. And to me, I don't feel like that's going to get forgotten about,
right,
or slipped, or, lost in the shuffle. And I don't think that doesn't work for me. Also, like you said, you might not know about it. You might not even know that it got published yet. It's not like you always get told, or that you might not see it out there. And some people wait until all the proofs are done and they're happy with it and they're all done. So what I tend to do is I send the edit and we go back and forth. If it's, and then we wrap it up, right? So I don't send it immediately after I do the edit. I kind of wait to see if this is going to wrap up like within the week. And usually if it doesn't wrap up within a week, I send an invoice and I let them know that I will bill for future reviews. Mm-hmm. And that works pretty well for everybody. That's what I do, because I can't, it's not always, I don't like waiting too long. I don't want to lose anything.
And again, it comes back to how you want to set up your business, how you want to do business. It's all about what's best for you and how you communicate with your clients. And I would definitely put it into your estimate and your agreement email, just to let them know how and when you bill, mm-hmm. so that they're clear and you're clear. The other thing about it is I always try to encourage other tech editors to communicate time. So if you're billing by the hour, when you send back that first pass, tell them how long it took, so that there's no surprises when it comes to your invoice. That's always a help too. Catherine says, I'm changing how I bill as I have a client who's in between edits, but she's currently moving countries. Definitely a learning experience for me. Yeah, exactly. So it does help to be flexible and to just have your client's best interests in mind and provide great customer service. It's just a way to increase your client's trust of you too.
That's a big part of it. You have to be available and you have to communicate what needs to be known, mm-hmm. so that there's not a lot of mystery and questions about it. And make sure you answer any questions that they have, Mm-hmm. That's a big part of it. Customer service. Absolutely.
It's a huge part of what we do is mm-hmm. Building up trust between us and our client, so that they trust us, so they trust our work, and to always treat our clients the way that we want to be treated, and to be very professional in our interactions and in our communication with them. It just makes it easier all the way around when things are done in a clear way. So let's see. If you guys have any more questions, throw them into the comments.
Yeah, we're out of ours, but we have...
we are out of everything that we got before we started the broadcast. Let's go ahead and do a couple things here. We just started in this new format here on YouTube, and we absolutely love it because we get to see your questions. Everything stays here, and we get to put your questions up on the banner. So we'll be here for a while, I think. So feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel here. And then, Christina, you want to throw into the comments where they can go to subscribe to our newsletter?
Yes, I'll put the link in the comments to sign up for the newsletter. When you sign up for the newsletter,
on our website.
On our website, you will get our free pre-edit pattern checklist when you sign up for the newsletter. And then we send the newsletter once a month, a couple days before the Q&A. Mm-hmm. And we let you know what we talked about last month. There's a link to that video. There will also be a link to the next broadcast where you can even go and leave comments and questions ahead of time.
Yes.
And we'll let you know the date and time of that. And we'll let you know what's going on with our book, and we'll let you know what we've been up to. And we let you, what's the other thing in our newsletter?
I don't remember. I know we just wrote it on Friday. We have a Friday meeting where we do our newsletter together, so I can't remember. Let's talk about book though.
Yeah.
We're editing. So for those of you who are new to this broadcast, we decided that we were going to put everything that we talk about, all and the same questions we get over and over again, into a book format, that so you can have something in your hands. And we've been working on it a lot. We have the manuscript written. We sent it for developmental editing, and we are currently editing all the structure and voice and things, and we're working. It's a little painful on my side. I don't know about
it's a lot,
Christina.
It's a lot. It's been a longer process than I expected, so I guess I wasn't really prepared. It takes a long time, but maybe it's just, I mean, it's totally our personalities. Obviously, we're tech editors, but it's going to take as long as it takes till it's good.
Exactly.
Right, until it's right, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So we're working on that. We're also having a lot of fun interviewing other people in our industry who have become published authors, just to get their take on this process, since we're very new to being published, although we're not published yet, to going through this process. So we're having a lot of fun doing our own little research into this part of the process. One more question here. Let me show it up here. How do you do estimates if you're scheduling first? With scheduling, how big is the block? Do they think the block is the estimate? I'm getting to the place where I need to switch to scheduling software. So this is great. This is a great question.
This is precisely why I don't schedule more than one edit a day.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know. So estimates, when you fill out the form in Calendly, when you make your appointment, it's going to ask what type of pattern it is, how many pages it has, charts, special stitches, construction, how many sizes, any kind of information that I want to get about the pattern before, when you make the appointment. I ask in that intro questionnaire when you go to make an appointment on Calendly. So you know a little bit about the pattern, so you can have kind of a sense of how that's going to fit into your week. And then, and that's another thing to remember too. If that week all your appointments get filled and you're like, I can take on more than that, then go add more appointments.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go in and add more, and people can book those, you know? And sometimes I've done that. I've done that lots of times. If I know I can fit something else in, and I know people need work done, I'll add appointments if I have room that week. It doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it does. And so estimates, because they've not sent the pattern yet, estimates don't happen until they send the pattern.
Exactly.
Oh, I want to say something. That can sometimes be difficult. I have it so you need to send your pattern to me within 4 to 7 days ahead of the pattern. If you don't send it within 3 days of the due date, there's going to be a rush fee. And the reason for that is it doesn't leave me enough time to get that pattern done and sent to you. And I still have to send you an estimate email. You still have to approve it. And so lots of times, if I don't get a pattern until like the day before, and they're not checking their email all the time, they don't respond to my estimate email, which always at the bottom, right? Please respond to confirm, right? Because you need to know. I'm not going to just start working on it if then they write back and say, no, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. So I need to have the pattern ahead of time, and the estimates don't happen until they send it. I'm not going to give an estimate for something I haven't seen, unless it's like a giant collection that's not been completed yet, things like that, where you have to do a little bit of a different estimating system. But generally for single patterns, I don't estimate till I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the question also was, with scheduling, how big is the block? Do they think the block is the estimate? No, that's made clear in the dialogue when they schedule, is that once you send me your pattern, then I will forward you an estimate and an agreement. So it's great. You feel free to message us about your questions about scheduling software. We can absolutely help you if you need more advice. Lisa says, how do the clients, let me show this. How do the clients access Calendly? Is it different for new clients, or do they see the calendar the same as existing clients?
Oh, well, that's up to you. You can have as
You
many
get to
calendars as
decide.
you want. You can have different calendars for different types of clients if you want. I did that for a little while. Sometimes it depends, right? You can have as many calendars as you want, but they can access it through a link that you can give them. You can send them a link. If you want to send links, like you can send a link, you can send it like in your newsletter, or you can send it individually to people. You can even send people individual links, or you can broadcast it
on your website.
Put it on your website, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, wherever you are. You can do that too if you're open to absolutely any appointments that you can get.
Yes. So yeah,
I have the Calendly embedded on my website.
Mm-hmm.
So I can even just send them to my website, and it's right on there now, which I hadn't done before, but I'm doing that now. So
you asked how they access it. They access it by going to the Calendly link. So it would be like calendly.com and / and then whatever your link is for your particular calendar. And I currently have 3 different ones that I'm using to schedule different types of appointments with me. And I think you can, I don't know how many you can schedule, a lot.
Oh, that's another way to do it. I did that for a while too. So if you are really concerned about how much time something's going to take, or having too many difficult patterns a week or something, you can make different scheduling links for garments,
yes,
for shawls, for hats and socks. You can have, like I did that for a long time. One of my links was garment edit, and one was accessory edit. And so they would have to choose which one, so you knew how much time to save yourself.
That's really smart, Christina. I like that. That's clever.
Like, you really can break it up any way you want that works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Be creative. You can figure it out. There's lots of different ways to do it. Here we go. I like this question. Oh my gosh, this is the best. Do you ever get an edit schedule that you don't want to do? What would you do then? You can see we're laughing because you know the answer. The answer is yes. What do you think, Christina? How are you going to answer this one?
So yeah, of course that happens. It doesn't happen a lot. I mean, but it does happen. If it's somebody usually it's somebody I've not worked with before, so I didn't know what to expect, or I got it late, or it was something that I wasn't able to do for whatever reason, or was something that I didn't realize would take so long, or something, right? Whatever the reason is, there's like millions of reasons it could be why you're not really wanting to do that edit. And so sometimes I'll do it anyway, right? Yep. Because if I don't know the person, I don't know, like it's nobody's fault, right? You know, so sometimes I do it anyway. And if I really think it's not going to work out, I will say, I don't know that I'm appropriate editor for this project, and I'd be happy to send you a list of other editors who are available who can help you. Sometimes, though, I'll ask a million questions, all the questions I have about this. And sometimes at the end of that email exchange, the questions get answered, and it's not going to be something I can do right now, or the questions get answered and they need something else that isn't even just editing, or the questions get answered and I do it, you know? So that's how I do it. I either just do it, or I ask a lot of questions, or if I really know I can't do it, or I'm not going to be able to do it, I'll just flat out say, this is not a project I can take on right now. I'm not the right editor for this project, and I'd be happy to send you a list of people who can help you. And be sure to do that, you know?
So this is why we always suggest, well, no, we encourage and emphasize the fact that in our community, we are not competing against each other
Right.
as tech editors. We are working to collaborate with other tech editors as much as possible. So it's great to find a way to connect with other people who are doing the same work that you are doing. So in case you get a pattern like this, and it's happened to me before where I would get a pattern and then it had like one brioche section. And I'm like, I don't do brioche. But if I have some tech editors in my back pocket who do brioche and who are happy to work with a pattern that's got these mixed stitches in it, then I will send them the list of the people I know who do this kind of editing. So I work the same way that Christina does. Sometimes I just do it. Like, okay, fine, I'll just do this brioche section. It's only a short section. I can do it. Other times I'll ask a lot of questions, and other times it'll be like, okay, I can't handle this particular pattern for whatever reason. I just don't want to take on for whatever reason. And I will make sure that I refer them to other colleagues so they're not left high and dry.
Yeah.
We still want to provide the best customer service we can. So I know Christine and I work together a lot. We send patterns back and forth sometimes. And I have a lot of other editors that I keep a Word document on my computer with other editors and their specialties. So I know if I accidentally get a sock pattern in my email, and I don't edit socks, I'm not good at it. I'm a terrible sock editor. I know already I've got 4 other editors that I can recommend. So that's how I handle it, is I use my network and I use my community and I use my collaborative skills to help this designer get what they need, even though I can't provide it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers your question. And let us know if it raises more questions. All right, so we're just about out of time. We did want to announce that we're going to take a summer break next month. We will not be having a tech tip Q&A next month in August. Our next tech tip Q&A, say that 5 times fast, is on September 20th at noon Eastern time. And we'll be back here and to answer your questions and to help you guys out in any way that you need it. And we're very happy that you guys are here along with us today and giving us some great questions, and that we could answer the questions that you did have.
Yeah, we get a lot of tech editing questions lately.
Yeah, I think this
like 2 weeks in a row, and it was like,
all the business.
And there's more from before too. Like
I know there's lots to talk
before
about
with tech editing questions.
I know. So in the meantime, if you have a burning question for us, feel free to message us on Instagram, to send us a question through our website, to email us. We are available here, and we'll probably save your question for the next tech tip Q&A, but we will give you a personal answer if it's something we can answer right away, and then we'll broadcast it again in September. So anything else, Christina?
I don't think so. Sign up for the newsletter, subscribe on YouTube. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send us a message. You can also, when we put up the link for the September video, you can comment right on the video if you just, are happy to wait till September.
Yeah.
And like she said, we'll wait till the Q&A to answer your question, but we might sometimes be able to write you back with a question in real time. It depends. So thanks so much, you guys. We love coming on here and answering your questions.
We do. We really enjoy it. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you in September.
Have a nice rest of your summer.
Have a great summer. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.